All right, so I am a believer. I'm a firm believer in everything I'm sharing with you because I have lived its truth. So many of my clients have asked me to share how some of the tips I've written and talked about have applied to my own life. After all, it's one thing to tell someone what to do. It's another to show them what that means. So I'm going to do that for you. I have not always known what I wanted to be when I grew up. I have had wonderful jobs, I have had terrible jobs, and I've had mediocre jobs. But I learned pretty quickly that networking and my ability to use it in a way that I felt comfortable could open doors to possibilities for me. And staying curious and open to what could come next has been one of the biggest gifts of my professional career. And it's also helped me stay positive through some challenging times. So starting right after college, so I'm going to start here on the left with PR agency, and I'm going to make my way up the mountain and talk to you about how I got to where I am. So starting right after college, I worked at a PR agency in Boston for 2 years in the consumer technology group. I always wanted to work in healthcare. So I was about 23 years old. I got up the courage to chat with the vice president of the healthcare team at my PR agency to see if there were any openings. And she said there wasn't any availability. Kind of shut down the conversation. I didn't really think much of it. However, after 2 years in my group, my entire group was eliminated. And I faced my first layoff at the tender age of 24. And when I did, the same vice president of the healthcare team knew my interest in healthcare. So when her client, a medical device company, decided in a kind of wild turn of events to get rid of their agency support and bring someone in-house to do their PR and communications work, she thought of me. And I went from being unemployed back to being employed. So I worked for this medical device company for 2 years. I was their spokesperson, and I ended up writing the press release for a huge layoff of half of the company's employees, which you can imagine was a pretty exhausting thing. It was stressful, it was tiring. And then I found out that I was part of the half of the company that was being laid off. So I literally wrote the press release for my own layoff. The same vice president of healthcare from the PR agency had moved into another medical device company. And I had stayed in touch with her. And after reaching back out to her, she hired me as an independent consultant to work with her. So after this stint in independent consulting, I moved back to Maryland. I got married. I got a job with the University of Maryland in their business school, the Smith School, and worked in both their career and marketing offices. I had a great ride there. I really loved being there. And I decided that instead of marketing things, I just had a passion for helping people market themselves. And after 8 years at the Smith School, I left to pursue a master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology. And in my second year, the professor of my legal class said they were looking for an intern. I knew that legal selection wasn't an area I was likely to work in, but I really respected the professor, and I recognized that this was a good opportunity to get to know him and his network. So I applied, and I was offered the internship. So this professor supported me in creating my master's capstone thesis that supported what I was interested in, which was organizational development and understanding the right types of employees to hire, and how to create a selection process that will hire employees that can be successful. And I used that capstone created with the professor in the internship that really wasn't in my area to land my first job out of grad school. So following grad school, my primary goal was to land a job at Marriott. That was sort of like, it was really my dream. And this was not easy. Clearly, I wasn't the only person who wanted a job at Marriott. I had connections through many people, high-level connections. A talent officer who knew my father told me that they get upwards of 500 to 1,000 applications for every job posting at Marriott headquarters. And she wasn't helping me get a job, I'll tell you that much. I had a number of people that I talked to who I thought for sure they would pave the way. And I knew Marriott employed many IO psychologists. So about a year into trying, I reached out to several of my professors just to see if any of them could make a connection for me. And my assessments professor, who was not really the most well-liked or the seemingly most networking proficient guy, said I was a good student. He felt pleased that I asked him for help. And he said, I'll send an email. I might know somebody. I knew this guy who was an acquaintance. He went on to LinkedIn. He found the name of the guy. He emailed him. That acquaintance, who never met me in person, was more happy to help me than any of the big shots that I was connected to. For whatever reason, he really believed that he wanted to help. He connected me with two very influential leaders who were willing to meet with me. I kept my professor's contact updated, and when I didn't hear back from some of these leaders, I pinged my professor, who pinged his contact, who warmed up the lead. After 2 years of persistence, I landed my dream job at Marriott. In 2020, COVID is upon us, and I realized I have an opportunity to take a buyout from Marriott and start my own business, which has been a dream of mine since way back at my University of Maryland time. At the same time, the husband of my neighbor, so this is in 2020, this is the beginning of COVID, everyone's kind of outside because they don't know what else to do with themselves. The husband of my neighbor is deployed, so my neighbor has her parents come to help her with the kids. I get to know her father. He's a gentleman, he's close to retirement. And he finds out that I've helped her. I helped her get an interview once with Marriott. He asked me if I'd be interested in joining a networking group called BNI. He says it's really great. It's not cheap. It's a bit of a time commitment, but I just started my own business and I know I need clients. So I visit the meeting. Flash forward 2 years, and I'm the vice president of the chapter with a large part of my business profits and ongoing business coming from the members of this group. And lo and behold, this is the most exciting part of how networking has helped me. Networking has led me to this very session. In the largest coincidence of networking that has ever happened, I was, of all places, at a bar class. So bar, for those of you who aren't aware, is a type of exercise. I was there a month ago, and there was a fire drill. So we're all hanging out outside the building, and to kill some time, I started talking to the woman standing next to me. I had spoken with her once or twice. It turns out she's also a fellow business owner, small business owner, in a related field to mine, and we had a lot in common. So we opted to skip the class and shared notes over a Starbucks on ways we could partner and join each other for networking events. She followed up with me by inviting me to a networking event close to my house geared towards small business owners. I decided to attend. And the second person I met there, even before going inside, is a man some of you may know named Ron Moore. He told me about a speaker series run by 40 Plus of DC that he felt could be right up my alley. And here I am.